So I'll pull up the ebook. This is starting on page, starting on page 30 of the ebook. You'll have a list of teaching strategies, and I'll make it a little bigger for you here. So this teaching strategies matrix is essentially a list of all 250 activities that I have described in the ebook, broken down and organized in two different ways. One, by process: prior knowledge, receive new information, organize new information, clarify critical thinking, and assess, and also by learning style. So for direct instruction, listening, oral, these are activities that students would hear or listen. Essentially, these are lecture type of activities. For reading activities, a number of different ways and strategies they take notes. Writing activities, teaching strategies. Visual picture activities and teaching strategies. Video, movement, music, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. These are essentially different multiple intelligences, different learning styles, broken down vertically and then horizontally by process. So this is how it looks in the lesson plan, the template at least that we're using. You can see we already created our objectives in step 2 and our assessment in step 3. And here we want to fill out the learning activities. And what I've had it here is this kind of unique to this lesson plan template is this opportunity to make sure you're keeping track of process. Make sure you're connecting or accessing prior knowledge. Make sure that with every R you have an O, and that there's critical thinking and clarification opportunities there as well. So we're going to fill in this lesson plan, the rest of this lesson plan, and for at least for day 1. And as a reminder, our 3 objectives, or the lesson itself, is about the first 3 commandments and their connection to the greatest commandment that Jesus says, to love God. So one thing I have already listed in all the templates is this BW, and BW stands for bell work. One thing I always use as a teacher and catechist is making sure there's an assignment on the board as the students come in for them to work on, or something to hand to them as they walk in for them to work on, to cut down on the chatter, and also to start class immediately, as opposed to wasting time with different discussion. So the one thing I'm going to do, because we're talking about the 10 Commandments, and that this is the first time we're introducing the idea, we're going to just ask the kids to list the 10 Commandments to the best of their memory. And this, of course, is going to be prior knowledge. So they may not know or remember them, but they probably can list down at least a couple. And after giving them some time to work on that, we're going to actually have some prayer. And I might at this day just write down intentions. It's a very common prayer that students really do enjoy, as you probably know. So intentions will be the prayer opportunity for the day. I'll make this a little bigger for you to be able to see it. So next we want to get into the lesson. We want to first review probably the 10 Commandments bell work that they created. So we're going to review the bell work, and that's going to be an O, because we're helping them to organize what they did know in their prior knowledge here. And for some of them, it also might be an R, and they might have missed a couple of commandments. They're going to list those in their list, add to their list. And these two things together are both R and O. So we're reviewing the bell work, reviewing the 10 Commandments. The next thing I'm going to probably do is, because our first objective here is going to be to list the first 3 commandments, is to help them memorize those first 3 commandments. So I might look at my sheet here, the teaching matrix thing, and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to help not only receive but organize the information in a certain way? And what I might do is either one of these direct instruction activities, because I know that I'm going to ask them orally as an assessment. What I'd maybe do is take a little activity from the music part, the music intelligence, and just kind of make a chant for first 3 commandments. And either have the students create one, or simply another idea would be to just simply go desk by desk or student by student and just tell me 1, 2, 3, what's the first commandment, and the next person can say the second commandment, and the next person the third commandment. And they're actually going to be saying kind of word for word the commandments themselves, because we're going to ask them to be able to list them. So this is essentially kind of practice of the skill and knowledge. That's going to go in the O. And this is going to be our assessment. We're an oral response using popsicle sticks, and I'll show you what that is in a minute, to the question, what are the first 3 commandments, or simply list those. Popsicle sticks are one way of, if you have note cards or popsicle sticks with all the students' names on them, you can kind of choose at random students to call on to answer a certain question. This is going to be our assessment. This is the first assessment that we had. Oral response, list the first 3 commandments. So we're going to be checking students at random, and if they can't do it, if they can't read or list those first 3 commandments, we're going to go back and reteach things. So maybe in addition to chanting, we might have them write it out. Add a couple more levels here. Okay, so oral response, and we're going to move in a little bit deeper, so we want to go into the next level. We want to be able to help them paraphrase the commandments. We also want to introduce this idea that Jesus' greatest commandment is connected to the first 3 commandments. So we're going to have them do some reading. Pages 30 to 40, let's say, is the section that they're reading. And we're going to have them use a handout, a graphic organizer, called SQ3R, and this is described in the ebook. It's also available in the graphic organizers page in thereligionteacher.com. So www.thereligionteacher.com/graphic organizers. You'll see this as one of the reading guides that you can use. So that's going to be 3 things. It's because of the nature of the activity. It's going to be prior knowledge, receiving new information that you're actually doing the reading, and it's also the organizing the information as well. So if you notice we haven't quite added the time yet. We've kind of went through a list of activities, and the time at this point is kind of irrelevant. But now, because I'm thinking, I'm thinking in my head, I might be getting pretty close to the full class period. So let's start to list the time. Let's say that this activity took a full 10 minutes, probably a little bit less. The intentions might take 5 minutes. Reviewing the bell work, maybe 10 minutes as well, because we might be teaching for the first time these first 10 commandments and helping them to memorize that list and correct the list that they created in the bell work. This chant might take 5 to 10 minutes. Let's say 5, or maybe even 10, and then we'll say 5 minutes for just the assessment part. And the reading, depending on what level or what the book is like, we'll say a full 10 minutes, because the SQ3R is kind of a more of an involved graphic organizer that takes a little bit of time in addition to the reading, but really does pay off. You can see there we have about 50 to 60 minutes covered already, so we'll probably want to end the lesson with this day pretty much here. And what we want to do is add an exit card that you can quickly assess at the end of the class, and this is going to be our assessment for the second objective, which is to paraphrase the first 3 commandments. Misspell that there. And that's going to be the assessment for the day. And we'll probably ask them to do some homework to practice a little bit, maybe the review questions on page 41 provided by the textbook is a good idea. So the lesson plan is going to continue. It's not just one day in this case. We're going to continue on to a second day. And we're going to have them first entrance card. And this is from the reading. How did Jesus summarize the first 3 commandments? And for the prayer, we might have a reflection on Matthew 22, verses 34 through 40, which talks about when Jesus answers that question about what is the greatest commandment. So here we are for the bell work. We're doing a little bit of assessment and checking what they've known. After the prayer, we'll get into the bell work, and essentially we'll probably use that graphic organizer that I mentioned as the assessment. And what I essentially did down here is create a little Google Doc, and you might easily create something. This is what I'm thinking for the graphic organizer, just kind of 3 blank little circles pointing to a larger one, and this larger one would be love God, of course, and just some arrows drawing to there. And essentially what we'll have them do is just have them fill it in. So they're going to fill in the first 1, 2, and 3 commandment, then love God, because all of those are pointing to Jesus' commandment to love God. I'm running short on time, so I'm going to quickly move through this so I don't get cut off in the video. After the graphic organizer, we're going to expand a little bit on the idea of love, so we'll define love. And this is something we'll want to do in, I think, pair share type of activity, and there's a number of different variations of this in the ebook. Essentially, we're going to have them first think by themselves what is love, share their definition with a partner, and then share it with the rest of the class. And that's going to be a both receiving new information and organizing information. Graphic organizer here is going to be the assessment. And moving along, if we give them enough information, we can start to expand a little bit more and ask them really to compare. So we might have a kind of a chart on the board. First 3 commandments and love God. And that's going to be both new information and organizing information. And after we've given some time as a class, and the teacher kind of would be leading this, adding some more information, really comparing them, and, drawing out the notes, we're actually going to give them the opportunity to show that they've learned it, and give them a Venn diagram that has, in one circle, the first 3 commandments, and in the other, love God. And then they'll be asked to show the similarities and differences in both circles. And that would be the assessment. So there you have all the assessments are recorded here in both days. This would be your kind of final assessment or summative assessment of this lesson. You may give some additional homework here. One thing we did miss is, well, first of all, adding in the time here. We want to add a little bit more of a time. 10 minutes. This might be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and then giving them maybe a good 15 minutes to finish. We want to make sure we have lecture notes for the chart. We also want to make sure we have that a copy of the SQ3R guided notes. Let's see, what else did we miss? Textbooks, of course, and Venn diagram, or you can have them create this on their own. So that'll be a nice reminder for you to make sure you have these materials prepared and ready for when you have the lesson. So thank you. That's all I have for today, and thank you for listening to and watching these video tutorials to accompany the ebook. I hope you've enjoyed using it, and I hope it will continue to be an asset to your teaching and catechesis in the years to come.